Hi everybody, it's Nikki again, back for round two of hopefully my dawn phenomenon, I guess morning blood sugar climb. Not really dawn phenomenon, just my independent morning blood sugar climb in auto mode. This video is personal experience, not to be used as medical advice, and it might be true for you, might not be true for you, and that is as true as it gets. I am here to share with you guys what I found over 6 days of this experiment. And the focus of my experiment is I'm trying to take a look at, I'm trying to establish a baseline. I'm trying to figure out what kind of delivery, what kind of insulin delivery am I going to get in auto mode versus in manual mode. I know what I'm going to get in manual mode because that's my predetermined basal rate. I never know what I'm going to get in auto mode because every minute or every 5 minutes is going to depend on the algorithm, which is taking in all these different factors which are changing every 5 minutes and definitely are changing day by day. So I'm looking at, what is auto mode going to deliver for me before I start start messing with settings, and definitely before I do something like a fake carb. I mean, if I'm not giving myself insulin, if I'm not trying to buy extra insulin in whatever way, what am I going to get in auto mode? And I feel like that's an important baseline to determine before we start making changes, because we're going to see what is it that we're up against. I know what I did for many months in auto mode, and that is basically I most often, vast majority of the time, received less insulin than what I do in manual mode and with a predetermined basal rate. So I expected to see that, and I did see that. The confusing part is that 1 out of 8 times, or 1 out of 9, one out of 8 or 9 nights or whatever, and that's a rough estimate, I might get extra. I'll show you, there's hours in here where I get 130% of my basal rate. So those exist too, and in fact, those really just kind of make it all more confusing, because then I'm like, some mornings I get up and I'm crashing and I don't understand. So I'm trying to figure out, and what I really determined in this is that you don't really know what you're going to get in auto. I don't really know what I'm going to get in auto because it's going to change night by night. So that brings me back to that next setting change, and what kind of setting change do you apply over an ever-changing basal rate? I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so my experiment, 6 days. I went into manual one night and I stayed in, and then I did not eat any carbs whatsoever, and I basically went for approximately 2 hours the following morning, and I alternated one night in manual, one night in auto. I did not do consecutive nights because I had to do it where it was available, and they weren't all the same morning, but it was interesting. My mornings in auto, I was often really kind of running around things that should have been pushing down my blood sugar, but I continued to stay high. And then in manual, there was at least 1 or 2 nights that 1 or 2 mornings that I just sat and took my blood sugar, and that wouldn't have pushed my sugar down, but my sugar continued to drop. So I will share, I also did not have a single sip of coffee, and that's why when I was done, I had to be done, because I was like, yeah, I'm going to go get my coffee now, I'm done with this. Okay, so I will share with you general results. Day 1 in manual, my average blood sugar was a 66. My waking blood sugar was an 85. And over the course of about an hour and 40 minutes, from 7:41 a.m. until 8:54 a.m., my blood sugar steadily decreased from 85 to 63. So I will show you. This is my homemade graph. This is day 1 in manual. There are better ways to do these graphs, but this is just going to show you kind of a gentle, sloping, downward trend. Again, all before carbs, all before coffee, nothing to affect my blood sugar, no correction boluses, nothing at all. Just this is when I wake and then go for a couple of hours without doing anything. Day 2 in auto mode, and I'll just show you the comparison really quick. I can't show you the comparison really quick. Okay, you can see already that it's higher and that it goes up. Same exact conditions, no coffee, no correction bolus, absolutely nothing. On day 2 in auto mode, I'll hold it up there again, my average blood sugar was a 196. And that morning I woke up at a 171, and it teeter-tottered a little bit, 171, 179, 188. No, actually this didn't, this was straight up, 200, 221, 221. No coffee, no carbs, no nothing. And then I will tell you that over the course of that night, for 7 hours, I tracked my microboluses. Between 1:09 a.m. and 1:58 a.m., I received 100%. The next of my manual mode basal rate. The next hour, I received 18.75%. The next hour, I received 3.125%, 3%. The next one, 68%. The next hour, 102, then 104, and then 86%. So even though I did have 3 hours at 100, 102, 104, I also had 4 hours at below, and those were 18, 3, 68, and 86. On that day, not only did I climb, but even after I exited auto and did correction boluses and temp basals and everything else, my whole afternoon was just high. So it took me a while to sort it all out. Day 3, back in manual mode again. And here's another one in manual mode. So this time I'm starting off slightly higher than I did the first one. I started off at 109 or something, 100, whatever. But again, 122. So my waking was 122. And then this one I kind of fluctuated. I went up and down a little bit. 122, 126, 115, 120, all for an average of 109, a blood sugar average of 109. Again, I got out approximately 2 hours later. And when I did get out, my last blood sugar was a 95. So even though it did kind of fluctuate a little bit, it did continue to drop, all before I had my coffee, all before I had a correction bolus, all without, on that morning, any activity whatsoever. That was just what my blood sugar does in the morning. Compare it again to day 4 of auto mode, if I can. And you can see again, I think I did these backwards. If I did, I'm sorry. There's auto mode. It's starting off higher. And then it just kind of goes up or stays up. And I can't really emphasize enough that it wasn't just for this couple of hours, it was following, it was the afternoons too, that it just took me a while to sort it out. On day 4 in auto, my average blood sugar was a 185. I started off at a 149 that morning, that's not half bad. But within 20 minutes, I went up to a 185. Then to a 200, a 197, 195, 190, 200. So there was kind of a big jump, and then it just floated there for a while. Day 5, and you guys are dropping off to sleep right now, but I'm in, so I'm gonna do the whole thing. Day 5, here's my day 5 back in manual again. I started off at a 96. A waking blood sugar of a 96. I went, this one also kind of went up and down a little bit for a while. And again, I don't know how much of that is just my meter, that my meter is reading a few points off here and there. But I went 96, 109, 91, 102, 94, 103, 99, for an average of a 100 for a blood sugar. And I ended up leaving at a 106. So according to this, it does look like there's a little tiny rise, about a 10-point rise. Again, I'm diabetic. I mean, it's not I don't know why I rose that morning. That's what, I don't have any idea. And again, because I typically don't, I kind of want to say it's a meter issue rather than something else. But who knows what it could be. I'm diabetic. What I do know is that all of my numbers in manual mode, as long as I'm not getting up and eating stuff I shouldn't be eating or missing insulin, usually are a slow downward trend in the morning. Auto mode again. And there it is again. So on this one, it looks like I kind of held steady there for a long time, and then it was a big climb. And that big climb toward the end required 2 correction boluses, 1 hour of a temp basal of 120, and an exercise session to bring it back down again. And my last day in auto mode, my average blood sugar was a 148. Now this is the part that's interesting. So it looked really good, looked like it was holding steady. And then it jumped there in the end up to a 173. And at that point, I just wanted my coffee. If I could have hung in there and stayed for another hour or 2 without a coffee, I could have shown you guys that fallout. And it was a big fallout, but I wasn't willing to. So we'll say it was an average blood sugar of a 148, but I will tell you that there was a lot of intervention there towards the end to get my blood sugar back down to a normal range. That's my experiment. My auto mode is not responding to my dawn phenomenon, it's responding to itself. And I didn't give you guys the totals overnight, but the totals overnight, I told you about the 3% and about the 18%. That's not always is it that small. Sometimes it's 0 at minimum delivery, but sometimes it's 20% or 30%. It's just that every night's a little bit different. The only way for me to see it is to go back. I supposedly a night scout too. I haven't done that yet. But right now, the only way I can get it is to go back and look at my graph screen. We did also, me and Dr. B. Bennett, talk about whether or not ICR changes could possibly affect the microbolus size. He was told no. I was told yes. And I was making a mistake. I said I didn't want to change my ICR because I didn't want to be getting extra insulin at every meal all day. And he went, well, no, you don't have to do that because it depends on when you change it. I'm like, very good point. I haven't thought about that. So if I only change it in the morning, then I only get that extra insulin in the morning. And he was doing something very interesting, and that is he was trying to change his settings in the nighttime hours where he could increase that setting but not get extra insulin for his food. It was a great theory. And I was thinking, you know what, he may have something there. And then what he said in response to that, I don't know where the paper is. I don't know if I'm going to make it in time. Oh, so he says, this is what, we're talking about Dawn phenomenon, and we're talking about these numbers and everything else in the ICR setting change. And this, I'll leave you with this. He said, that's what I was experimenting with, setting a different super aggressive ratio in the wee hours, and I thought I was seeing some progress. But then one morning it started to go the other way, and I sat there looking at another higher than I want fasting BG, scratching my head. The problem was that I couldn't tell what to conclude from the result. Maybe the official word I got was correct, and that it wouldn't make any difference. And I'd been seeing some improvement for other reasons. Or maybe it did work, but there's that whole business of new settings not getting integrated into the algorithm for 6 days or whatever it is. So maybe it hasn't integrated yet, and it's not doing anything yet. Or my infusion site was losing absorption, or the sensor was registering lower than before, or, and I finally said to myself, you know what? I wasn't having this problem on manual. What exactly is the benefit I'm getting in return for all this struggle? Heck with the ICR ratio. What about AVB, aggravation versus benefit ratio? That's when I switched the thing off. I'm not encouraging switching the thing off, but that's where I am. I'm done with the Dawn phenomenon. Good luck to you and to all of you. I'm figuring that one out. And hopefully you just don't have it. So that's it. Thanks. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.